Greetings everyone, RetroIndieGamer here, and sorry I haven't uploaded anything in, well, almost a year now. Yeah, sorry, I'm greatly apologize for that. But basically, long story short, I was stuck with a piece of crap computer for a year, basically, which isn't a problem anymore. I have a pretty decent computer right now. But now, here's a game, basically me playing a game that I promised a year ago. Ys 1. I mentioned it in my highlight video. For the PC8 version, which I did compliment for a little bit, but funny story. About 5 minutes after I ended that particular video, the game started showing its true colors. And I promptly got away from the PC8 version of highlight and got the MSX version instead. Which is so much better. And it had a better soundtrack too. Well, not the MSX version, the MSX2 version. But yeah, this is Ys. The Ancient Ys Vanished Omens. Which is actually here as part of Ys Chronicles, which came out in 1908, well, Ys Chronicles, this version came out on PCs in 2009, but based off an older PC version from 2001. But the original game, which I'll try and show you guys one of these days, came out in 1987. And man, does the gameplay show! Because this game, as awesome as the original Ys is, the battle system, I'll admit, is pretty old. Shows its age, because it's run around running into enemies. Which you might look down if you didn't realize this is a game that came out on PC in 1987. I remember seeing someone in the review section for the Android version of this game. Oh, don't want to go there yet. Saying that they should have used the battle system from Chrono Trigger, which means look up the age of so that I would say just look up the original age of this game. This game didn't exist because this game came out 8 years. Oh, level up! Because this game came out what, like 8 years before Chrono Trigger. And also, Ys is an action RPG series. Not to mention, this is a remake, and this is actually an example of how a remake should be done. I mean, I liken it in a way to basically a Super Mario All-Stars, where it basically just gave these older games a fresh coat of paint. Similar to, also like other Nintendo remakes like Ocarina of Time 3D, and Majora's Mask 3D for that matter, where they basically took the old games, well, and they made some slight modifications, and basically gave it a fresh coat of paint. That's basically what they did here. They basically made some changes, mostly due to the overall map, and basically gave updated graphics. It would be story potion. I might want that. So how do I use items again? It's been a while since I played this game, and I'll try and drink that potion later. Let's see. What more to do? Where are the fresh items? Oh, now, okay, now we're talking. Wait, why am I using a short sword? Oh, haven't gotten the, and it shows all the items, but yeah, basically, this game is, they basically took the original game to basically spice it up a little bit. Changed a few things here and there, but All in all, it's the same classic game. Now this game's actually, like I said, it's a pretty old franchise. So for an old franchise, it only has 8 main games so far. Yeah, 7 main games and a prequel. Okay, don't want to go there yet. And this little series, which for some people, which you might be aware of, but you don't realize that it's still around. Because I think the most well-known version of this game is probably Ys Books 1 and 2, which came out on the TurboGrafx CD way back in the 90s. Which is, as it says, is a collection of the first 2 games. The first time they munked all together, and for the most part in the US, that's how they've been ever since. Because I can't think of a single time the second game has been available in the US on its own. But it isn't too bad. But yeah, this is probably a series which, if you're aware of it, you might not be aware it's still around, or that it's pretty old. And for those of you who grew up with this game back on TurboGrafx with this as well as the third game, because that one was also on there on TurboGrafx. Actually, the third game made it on all free. The third game made it on all free consoles that were around at the time. Super Nintendo, TurboGrafx, and the Sega Genesis, all of which seem to have their own issues. I think all of them had positives, and they all had a lot of negatives about them. I think one of them that the Super Nintendo had somewhat bad performance, which I'll give it, because it's fun, but it's just the performance is not the greatest there. I think the Genesis version suffered from terrible music, whereas the TurboGrafx one suffered from a terrible translation. But yeah, some of you might have grown up with it on TurboGrafx and saw that basically disappeared after that. But some of you might be pleased to know that series is actually still around. This had a 13-year hiatus in the US. And Japan did pretty much better, actually. They had an 8-year hiatus after the 5th game came out. And because of this, because of said hiatus in the US, the 4th and 5th games never came out here. Though the 4th one, technically, in a way, it did come out here many years later. Run into enemies and kill them. In fact, the series is actually still around now. Because when he came back to the U.S. with the 6th game, I think 2000, with the new game in the U.S. with the 6th game, Ark and the Piston, and on the PS2, and I wanted to say 2005, somewhere around there, or it might have been 2003, or that might have been when the original PC version came out, which also came out in the U.S. but not for a long time. Die, enemies! And actually, there's actually a new game and for the Ys games, there's actually a new one on the way that's coming out this summer in Japan. It's not coming out in the U.S., though I'm sure that XE is trying to give it a U.S. release, but I cannot see that happening until 2017. So I might try and get my hands on the Vita version of the 8th game, because the 8th game is going to be on the PS4 and the Vita. So I might try and get my hands on that game, most likely on the Vita, when it comes out, so I can play for his channel. Die, enemies! Yes, I can play play it on his channel. So yeah, that's actually a pretty good thing to know, isn't it? if you didn't know, realize if you weren't aware of the series, it still exists. You know, it did have a long hiatus. Like I said, 13 years here, 8 years in Japan. And if you won't get them all here, you can actually get, because you can get all the games here except for, you can get all the games in the US and English, well, except for one, the 5th game. But for the others, they're all available throughout the PC and the PlayStation consoles. Because, well, this one, Ys Chronicles, is on the PC, which contains the first 2 games. And that version can also be found on the PSP. So we're gonna keep killing more enemies. Avoiding major story developments. Because right now I'm just trying to run around collecting gold, basically. That's warning you. And as mentioned for leveling, that there's only you can only level up 10. You can only get up level 10 in this game. And trust me, you're gonna need to be a max level because most of these bosses are pretty hard. Well, there are 2 really difficult bosses in particular. One is this bat creature you fight in the mines. And if you've played the previous version of this game, you know what I'm talking about. And another really difficult boss is the final boss, the Dark Fact. But yeah, if you want to get, like I said, if you want to get the games, if you want to get these games today, yeah, there are many options available for all except for 5, as I mentioned. Like I said, the first 2 you can get for your Ys Chronicles with the PC and PSP. You can also get books 1 and 2 on the PlayStation Store. Not PlayStation Store, the Wii Virtual Console. And I assume you can probably get it on the Wii U as well. Of that, I'm not certain, but since there is a Wii mode on there, so yeah, you probably can get it there. There's also a DS version, but I would not recommend that version. Level out, leveling up. Can find more enemies. Stand there and stand still and try my health. Funny how a lot of modern first-person shooters use that, but yet that gameplay idea of staying still to recharge your health came from old RPGs like this and Highlight. Well, Highlight had it first. Because Highlight is one of the first action RPGs. But anyway, back to where you can get these games. Let's see. Yeah, you can get the third game, Open Felghana. Well, Open Felghana is a remake, which is a remake of Wanderers from East, the third game. You can get Open Felghana on PC and PSP. Not much difference between those 2 versions, except the PSP version has voice acting. Not the greatest, but it's okay. The voice acting, I mean. Much better than the voice acting in the 6th game. Or at least in the PS2 version, which was thankfully taken out of the PC version. Along with those really weird CG cutscenes. Let's see. Die enemies. And you can get the 4th game on, and for other Ys games, you can get the 4th one via the remake Memories of Celceta on the Vita. On the PlayStation, either a physical cartridge or PlayStation Store. I would not recommend. And actually, I would recommend that game. It's pretty good. And I dearly hope because in China there's a PC version of Memories of Celceta, which I dearly hope comes to the US. Most due to how Sony's mishandled the Vita, basically. Because the Vita is a pretty good console, it's just been poorly managed. Yes, yeah, you can get Memories of Celceta in there, which is technically a remake of the 4th game. What I mean by technically is that, basically for the 4th game, they're basically 4 different versions made by different developers of the same game, which basically different takes of the same story. Because the basic story is somewhat the same. There's just some differences. I mean, they all pretty much have the same characters, and they take place in the same land, Salsetta. And I won't go into too much detail, but basically, technically there are 3 versions, because one of those other versions is a remake of another version. Yeah, because for 4, there are 4 different versions. There are 3 different versions of it. Mask of the Sun and Dawn of East. Those 2 versions came out within a month of each other. Then years later, we got Mask of the Sun and New Fury on the PS2 in Japan, which is made by Taito. It was technically a remake of, it was more or less a remake of Mask of the Sun. There's also then there's the current canonical version, Mary Salsetta, made by a series of developers, Neon Falcom themselves. So that's basically the canon version. And the second best one, in my opinion anyway, the best version of Ys 4 is Dawn of Ys. Which unfortunately never came out in America. Of course, the thing with Dawn of Ys, though, that version, even though that version was never a canon version, due to the liberties that Hudson Soft made of the story, you know, it's pretty great. And Memories of Salsetta more or less felt like a remake of that game, because it uses most of the character designs from Dawn of Ys. But yeah, you can get Memories of Salsetta on the PlayStation Store, and I hope that they'll bring it to Steam eventually. Because I think because the company that made the PC version for China, yeah, the actual developer is Japanese, Neon Falcom. And I hope that the PC version makes it to the US, because the company that made the PC version, they had expressed interest in bringing it here, at least for the 7th game. I'll get the 7th game in a moment. And 5, as I said, has never come out here officially in English. Yeah, I do have a copy of it, but it's the Japanese Super Famicom version. It's also released on the PlayStation 2, which also that version never came out in the US either. And because the PS2 is not region free, as much as I wish it was, I can't cover that. I can't cover that version. Oh, the Roto Tree. Run to these enemies and kill them all. Kill them all! Hey man, listen to that music. Yeah, that's one of the things that Falcon's pride on. Anyway, back to covering where you can get all different Ys games. The 6th game is you can get the 6th game, Ark of the Piston, on the PC via your Steam or GOG. Same thing with Chronicles and Open Borgana. And like I said, 5 never came out here. Though Falcom is planning on remaking it. And hopefully the remake will make it to the US eventually. But yeah, there's also the 7th Ys game, which is just called Ys 7. Yeah, that's it, just 7. No subtitle, and 7 spelled out. Though they could have easily given it a subtitle. Which basically it should have been called Ys 7: The 5 Dragons Vaults ago, but they didn't call it that. Even though that's what the main character Adol's Adventure Ver has been called since the first game. Because in the manual for the PC-88 version of the original game, which was the original version of it, it mentions many future adventures of Adol. And all the games up to this point are based off of Avengers Adventures mentioned in that manual, based from Adol's Adventure Journal. And there's several other adventures there that have not yet been mentioned in that manual that have not occurred, which have not made games of them yet. But given that they're making Ys games again, they probably will eventually. But yeah, the 7th game you can get it's on the PSP, so you can get on the PlayStation Store for both the Vita, PSP, and PlayStation TV. Same thing with all the other Ys games, actually. And there's also an 8th game, which is basically a prequel to the entire series, which was actually made after Ark and the Piston, but before 7, because it uses the engine from Ark and the Piston. So does Vagana. The same thing with the same thing with 7 and Memory Celceta, which use very similar engines. But yeah, Origins has only ever been released on PC. In the US, you can only get it digitally via either Steam or GOG. Now, Origins is pretty nice. Because you basically can play a game as 3 different characters. You start out with 2 and you unlock the 3rd. And for the story and the overall canon of the series timeline, the 3rd character's story is one that's usually considered the canon version. And probably my favorite mode of them, actually. Die! And like I said, there's an 8th game coming out this summer in Japan for the PS4 and Vita. And I'll probably try and get my hands on it. Let's see if I can do this. Can I talk to the Rototree? Nope, not yet. Yeah, by the way, nice cutscene, isn't it? So yeah, that's how you can get most of the games in the US. Because the 5th game has not yet come out here. But yeah, for the 8th game though, which like I said is coming out this summer, I'll try it. I might be trying to import it so I can show it to you guys. Mostly because I love these games. And new Ys is always a bonus. It's always a plus. And basically, one way to describe the series is basically, it's similar to Zelda, except in many ways, Ys is better. Especially in terms of storyline. Even though most of the stories are very traditional for RPGs. Which is actually what I like about these games. In fact, Falcom games in general. That they're very traditional. Both this and their other series, Legend of Heroes. Of which one of those finally came out here for years and years. Or at least the second one of the Trails series. And dun 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 dun. But yeah, that's one of the things I like about the Ys series. The stories are very traditional. Mostly because it's probably because Falcom is a pretty old company. Who's been making RPGs and action RPGs literally since RPGs began, because the very first action RPG, which I have shown footage of by the way, Dragon Slayer, it was made by Nihon Falcom. It was one of their earliest games. And ironically, Legend of Heroes is sort of part of that series. Because basically, long story short, basically the Dragon Slayer series, which is basically there are a ton of games in that series. But there are only 8 main games, and pretty much all the games spun off into their own series. And those series include Xanadu, which I think is got a new game, Sorcerian, and Legend of Heroes. And Legend of Heroes is still going, and they just made Tokyo Xanadu, I believe. So yeah, remnants of the Dragon Slayer series are still around here and there. The main one being Legend of Heroes. And this series, East, is also very old. Like I said, it came out in 1987. So, yeah, same year Zelda came out in the US. It was already out in Japan. And given how long games take to develop, they are likely in development at the same time. So no, the series definitely is not a ripoff of Zelda, especially since most of this game's inspiration came from R.I.G. Yeah, basically, East is basically what R.I.G is a million times better. Because what it does as battle system is here, it's a lot of fun. Just running into enemies and killing them. It's a pretty good battle system done right. Now, I can't imagine any new games today getting away with this, but since it's how this game was designed back in the 80s, it gets a pass. Now, some of the later games actually have a more traditional battle style. For action RPGs, anyway. Because this series, they've always been action RPGs. Always have, and probably always will. Just like Final Fantasy used to be always turn-based and always would be. Until Final Fantasy 15 comes along and makes an action-based series. And funny, this series, the first East game, I think, is actually older than the first Final Fantasy. I mean, not quite as old as, say, Dragon Quest, which is actually celebrating its 30th anniversary this year. You know, Dragon Slayer is older because that game came out like in 1984, I believe. But yeah, this game's pretty old with a pretty fun battle system. So some of the later ones, yeah, more traditional action style, like with. Because if you like more, yes, basically people who prefer older games like myself are probably in older battle systems. They're probably the only ones who are really gonna like the battle system in the first two East games, and the early versions of 4. Now, if you prefer more standard action RPGs, I would definitely recommend any of the games that use the Arc of the Piston engine, which includes Arc of the Piston, Open Felghana, and Origins. Especially Open Felghana. And it's also 7 and Memories of Celceta that use a party system. Which, some people like them, some people don't, because usually in these games, you always play as Adult Christian. The redhead swordsman. It's funny how late and now for these games, like Memories of Celceta basically mentioned that all the East games are based on adventures from Adult's Adventure Journal. What you know is mentioned in manuals for the first game, in the manual for the original game. It really wasn't brought up into the games until Memories of Celceta. The other thing I see is that it was basically used to explain why there are two different versions of Adult's Adventure in Felghana, and technically 4 different versions of his adventures in Celceta. Now I'll be covering all those games eventually. For right now, I'm just covering the first game, which is not my favorite, but the East games is one of those series where even the worst game in that series is much better than a lot of other games. Because all these games are masterpieces, in my opinion. Well, 5, maybe not so much, but 5 is still pretty good. I mean, the main problem I have with 5 is that it's just way too easy. Oh yes, okay, this company always gets props for music. And I would love it if Falcom ever, say, sold their music to be other people can use it in their games, in their own games. But even if they don't do that, I'm fine with just having them in Falcom games. So yeah, if you ever see reviews for the East games, you'll find that a lot of focus on the music, and that's because the music is it's pretty good. Which is interesting because Falcom is not a big company, because I think they have what, like only 50 employees or something. They're not a big company, yet they're able to make excellent games like this. I mean, they're never extremely high budget games, and they take a long time to make, but they're always of superb quality. The only weird thing is when was the Ys games on Super Nintendo, which was pretty weird, especially since Super Nintendo had a lot of really good RPGs and action RPGs. I mean, Super Nintendo is a console that gave us Final Fantasy IV, 6, Chrono Trigger, Secret of Mana, and probably several others I'm not that. And then, oh yeah, Super Mario RPG, and probably a whole bunch of others that I can't think of at the moment. So yeah, I definitely. So yeah, this is Ys Chronicles. Pretty fun game, and I highly recommend it. So, like I said, only if you really like old style games with an battle system that is literally just ramming into enemies. Yeah, literally that's how you kill enemies, ram into them. Though the suggested course of action is to hit him from the side, is to not hit him straight on because you'll take damage. The shrine. Yeah, this scene actually looks pretty much like the scene from the original, like the exact same scene from the old one, from older versions of this. Because, like I said, I had the PC-88 version somewhere. Mostly through the service called Project Egg, which is basically how to define it. Basically, a bunch of old Japanese PC games. You can get a whole bunch of old Japanese games in there. Most of them Japanese PC games, but there are games from like the Super Nintendo and stuff in there. But it's a Japanese service, and there are a lot of games in there which I'd recommend, especially even if you don't know Japanese, or people like me who know a little Japanese. Probably not enough to get through a full-fledged story-based RPG, but an action RPG like this, especially, you can probably get through no problem. So yeah, Ys Chronicles. I'll try and cover all the other Ys games at some point. So yeah, first video in almost a year. Yeah, sorry it took so long for me to make another video, but like I said, crap computer. But a much better one now. So I'll try and make more videos throughout the year. Most of them focusing on games, and if things work out, I might be able to record footage from console games too. Let's see. So die, enemies, die! Okay, now I think it's about time to go into the shrine. So yeah, until next time, everyone. Play this game, and if not this game, then one of the other games like Open Philgana or like, well, if you do the series, yeah. I'd definitely recommend Open Philgana. Anyway, until next time, everyone.